Horizon Chance, home to Rex, and this is the greatest attack jet you never heard of, A-37 Dragonfly. Okay, uh, A-37 Dragonfly. Why don't that, yeah? Okay, so this is like that warthog type of thing, right? I think it's what it is, right? A-37. Okay, so this is like the big ass minigun type of shit. Like Warthog, I remember because of that insane gun it has. Right, there's a sound alone is just like terrifying. That holds up whatever that weird sound is. It's not. It's more like it has like a thumpy bass to it, but it's just like really fast, which is like insane. Right, some of the bikes has engine that kind of sound like that. It's just awesome because of it. So yeah, I'm guessing this is going to be something similar to that A-37 Dragonfly. But yeah, I saw the F-15 video from Federation, and it was like one of the badass one, right? Like his badass series, as I call it, right? I hope he makes a whole playlist about badass as a separate thing and makes it into an actual series. But it was like a badass video, right? And the plane was actually badass. Everybody knows about F-16, but F-15 is different. It has the same engine, but somebody told me in the comment the F-15 has two of them, and F-16 just has one. So F-15 is more powerful than F-16 in that way. So that is some insane shit right there, right? The whole jet was insane. So I'm guessing this is also one of the badass one. It doesn't say it, but I'm hoping it would be, right? So all air air arsenal of USA is like everything they made of is just like, okay, we have the money, how are we gonna make this even insane, right? So same thing. I think you should make a video about the stealth bomber, right? In the 80s or whatever, when it came out, people think, oh, this is the alien ship until they announced it. Oh, wait a minute, this is our like stealth jet with all that triangle type shape and shit like that. That was so great. So let's go this one. Oh, I'm making this from my office. Obviously, I haven't been to my home in like for past 2 or so days, right? So I can't get to studio. But yeah, there was a sync issue. I'm hoping it won't be in this one. Mike, I think it sounds good now. So we'll see. But yeah, obviously most of my video will be from the studio. There's very few are going to be like this. So let's watch it.
Pretty much everybody already knows about America's gun with wings, the A-10 Warthog, and a ton of more
There you
people
go.
already know that its grandpa is the original Thunderbolt, the P-47, and its dad is the A-1 Sky Raider. But pretty much nobody talks about the A-10's mom, which is actually where it got the DNA for a nose-mounted minigun.
Really?
Today we're talking about the A-37 Dragonfly, aka the Super Tweet.
Oh, it's not the newer one. Okay, why is the A-37 the old one and A-10 the new one? Where the name even come from? I would just assume like, okay, maybe they jump some numbers because like prototype didn't work or blueprint didn't work, something like that. But I was assuming it's going to be newer numbers, going to be new one. A-37 older than A-10? Like, why is that the case?
Pound fighter jet carrying 3,000 pounds of napalm. That is literally a ton and a half of firepower in a very small package.
Series 4 deatomizer.
That's what I'm talking about.
Noisy cricket.
And on the off chance that 3,000 pounds of jungle jelly wasn't going to be enough to get the job done, it also has a Gao-2 minigun underneath the hood, capable of firing 3,000 rounds per minute. The only downside with that was it could only actually carry 1,500 rounds with it, but hey, it's going to be a wild 30 seconds.
It was okay at best.
I wasn't talking to you. Anyways, as I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, the A-37 is the aerial equivalent of a go-kart covered in guns. This thing is absolutely tiny. To put it into perspective, the F-4 Phantom, which was the other fighter jet used all the time during Vietnam, was weighing in at 55,000 pounds, and the Dragonfly is coming in at 5. However, despite its small stature and the fact that
Okay, did the F series made by some other company than the A series? What's the difference, right? If there can be like this kind of a jet, fighter jet also from the F series, F5 he's talking about. What is the difference between A series and F series? Right? It's like A series made specifically as this kind of a fighter jet minigun type of thing, and Fs are mostly fast jets. Is that what it is?
it gets literally
Somebody
no
really comment down
recognition
about that.
for it at all, it is arguably the most effective fighter jet of the entire Vietnam War. Once upon a time in 1952, the United States Air Force came out and said, hey, we need to incorporate more jets into our fleet. The only problem is we don't have many pilots that actually know how to fly a jet, so we need to get a new type of jet trainer plane that we can train all of our pilots on. Cue the Cessna T-37. It was absolutely perfect. It was small, cheap, easy to take off, easy to land, super easy to fly, and it had side-by-side seating for an instructor and a student. This jet was so perfect that it was actually the US Air Force's primary jet trainer for 52 years. It didn't retire until 2009. The only problem with the T-37 is that it generated a very, very high-pitched shrieking noise while it was running.
It's fine. It's not fine.
That noise unaffectionately earned it nicknames like the Screamin' Mimi, the 6,000-pound dog whistle, my personal favorite, the Converter, due to its unique ability to convert fuel into fucking noise, and of course, the Tweety Bird, which would later be abbreviated to simply the Tweet. And that's pretty much all you need to know for right now.
I mean, during the like, why does it like? Okay, I guess it's stealth thing. It's the problem. Otherwise, why would the noise be problematic in fighting in anything, right? The whole job is to kill in defense. But I guess it would for the stealth, like it would alert people in advance or some shit like that. I don't know. I think it's just cool that kind of like that's what the jet sound people associate with, shrieking sound.
Fast forward to Vietnam. All right, so Vietnam, basically the United States is finding out the hard way that ultra-fast fighter jets like the F-4 simply are not that great at providing close air support to troops on the ground. As it turns out, it's pretty hard to aim a bomb while you're traveling at the speed of Mach fuck and actually hit the target. Who'da thunk? And as we've talked about in a previous video, this is actually where the Navy's A-1 Sky Raider is performing way better than anybody thought it should, due to its ability to fly low and slow and actually engage a target accurately. The Air Force, seeing all the Navy's success, said, hey, we need to do the same thing. The only problem was the Air Force didn't have Sky Raiders, and they didn't have the time to come up with a whole new plane, so what do? You take the Air Force's T-37 trainer jet that every pilot you've had has been trained on for the last 2 decades, cover it in guns, and send that bitch into combat, obviously. Okay, obviously they didn't just cover it in guns, they also gave it a cool paint job, they swapped out the engines, gave it a couple of General Electric J85s, those are 3 times more powerful than the original engine, and they ran so hot and the Dragonfly sat so low to the ground.
Okay, what's with the General Electric? I've seen some videos about General Electric, how they made some things like consumer thing as well. But then I realized, wait a minute, they fucking make like military weapon type of things, like jet, something that you fit in the jet and tanks and shit like this. What is General Electric? Is it some kind of like a company that has some kind of like innovation electric, or is it like a weapons company, like Air Force or like company? Like that is like something like I don't know. Or is it just mix of those things? So I'm pretty sure like I also saw some hate towards the military for some reason, right? I read something about that. So is it like a weapon company? I don't know.
That it would actually melt the asphalt beneath it if it didn't get going once they started it. And then also, I don't know why I think this is so cool, but I do, these little nub thingies on the end of the wings now, those are extra fuel tanks. Each one of those holds 95 gallons of fuel, so that it had a better combat range. So the Air Force created this badass little fighter jet. The only problem now was, none of the actual fighter pilots wanted to fly it because it wasn't cool enough. It was too small, it was too slow, blah, blah, blah. So the Air Force was like, well, I mean, technically, pretty much every pilot we have has been trained on this thing, so fuck it. They just started pulling pilots from other places like refuelers, supply, cargo pilots.
What do you mean they didn't want to do it? It's your fucking order, do it. What you talking about? I don't get that. Like, okay, they pull something like what they can just refuse. Like, I'm not gonna do it. Really? Oh, it's not cool enough. What is this video game? It's a real life. It's your duty. Just get your ass in the plane. Like, I don't get it.
Everybody, and they just started putting them in these little fucking jets and sending them into combat. Surely this is a recipe for disaster, right? Wrong. The Dragonfly and its not fighter pilots would immediately go on a rampage. They quickly became the most accurate close air support aircraft in the entire Vietnam conflict. Their average accuracy was within 45 feet of the designated target. Bah! 45 feet doesn't sound very close to me. Bah! Dude, we're not talking about playing darts here. This is 3,000 pounds of fucking jungle jelly and white phosphorus. Believe me, the
45 feet, that's like 4-story building. It's not that much, man, when you really think about it. If a plane flew through like 40 feet from where I am right now, it would be like something like scary shit. So 45 feet is not bad, man. Especially like if you're doing a hit and run type of thing. Yeah, 45 is really close, especially when you think like this, like trainees and things like that, not your veterans.
The only difference between a bullseye and 45 feet is maybe enough time for you to say, oh fuck, before you wake up dead. Not only was the A-37 Dragonfly absolutely devastating to the enemy, but it was also virtually untouchable in the most comical way possible. You see, enemy anti-aircraft gunners were accustomed to firing at F-4 Phantoms traveling at like 1,400 miles an hour. But when the Dragonfly showed up topping out at like 500 miles an hour, the enemy anti-aircraft gunners would always overshoot, so the Dragonfly pilots just got to fly and watch all the flak and shit explode like 5 miles miles in front of them, and then they just got to drive right through it after the fact. Maybe the best example of slow is smooth and smooth is fast I've ever heard. Which brings us
Yeah.
to the second chair in the phallic.
Oh my god, this is like those movies, right, where they get attacked and you see like shells exploding in front of them and they try to dodge it. This is literally that. Because 400 versus 1400 is a big fucking difference. You know like how like this like anti-aircraft people would basically miss that. Nowadays with the electronics and shit, obviously that won't be the case today. But even then, I think like electronics can even overshoot even today, right? Because even though they're fast, the jets are also fast, so they would like even with the best electronics, there's a chance of overshooting. But back then, right, when people are shooting it, I guess, yeah, imagine that shit, right? Oh my god, it's coming and shooting. Oh my god, it's slow as fuck. And people might even mistake it because of its slowness, right? They would think like it's more far away than it is. They might think, oh, this is bigger jet and it's far away, that's why it feels slow. No, it is slow.
Excavation. I mean dick dimple. I mean cockpit. Second chair in the cockpit. Remember how I told you they were side by side, one for student, one for instructor? Well, in the combat version, the Dragonfly, they didn't need a second pilot or a spotter or anything, so the chair just went empty most of the time because, well, it was more weight for sticky fire. That was until word got out that these planes pretty much never got shot down, and then all the bigwigs wanted to go on a ride so they could be in a combat mission. If you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you that
Yeah.
second seat in the A-37's cockpit, it's kind of like that chair in the corner of the hotel room. It pretty much goes unused, and if it is being used, whoever's in it's probably just there to watch. I cannot believe I made that fucking joke. But wait, there's more. Not only is it super accurate, not only is it very safe, it's also
That was a good creepy joke though. All right. Imagine that. I'm the general. I never go and like, but I wanna go for a visit. I wanna go for a visit. Basically, CEO coming to inspection in your office, but in this way, it's like a war. People trying to kill you. But it's just like, okay, I'll just knowing I won't die because no. First of all, first I will think like, why are they not catching up? These people who are trying to shoot it. But then again, what is catching up? You have to shoot at 1400 miles per hour planes because they are there, and then you also have to shoot at 400 miles per hour, planes. How are you gonna know the difference instantly when you have to shoot? So even if you know something like that exists, how are you gonna basically adapt to it? So that's why I think they never got shot down because they can adjust for 400 miles per hour planes because other ones that are go at 1400 miles per hour would just basically ride off. It's just like it would just be stupid at that point. So all this like big wigs or whatever we talked about, literally sitting there, I want to go for a ride, knowing all the shells are exploding around. People are just basically attacking us. Oh, look at that! It's like tour, basically that Jurassic Park shit where there was like dinosaurs walking around. But oh, look at that with the binoculars and things like that.
extremely easy to maintain and really cheap. The Dragonfly has a 2-to-1 maintenance ratio, meaning that for every hour it's flying, it requires 2 hours of maintenance. This means you can give 2 Dragonflies to a crew of maintainers, and they're able to keep one of those birds in the air 24/7 all the time if that's what the mission requires. This is the epitome of accuracy by volume. So just to be clear, when it comes to close air support during Vietnam, it is the most accurate, the safest, and the easiest to maintain aircraft, and you get all of that for $400,000. And that is exactly why nobody knows about this fucking plane. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down,
No,
I'll explain
millions,
it just a little bit slower. The United States military just took a bunch of pilots with subpar training for the task that they were assigned, stuck them inside of subpar fighter jets, and then sent them into combat. And then they somehow outperformed the fighter pilots that had actual fighter pilot training and the enormous, super expensive fighter jets. Now, be honest, do
shit.
you really think that the politicians and high-ranking military officers that are in charge of budget-related shit are gonna let the world know that? Absolutely not. Okay, we can't have everybody running around knowing that the napalm coming out of a $400,000 plane is just as hot as the napalm coming out of a $5 million plane. It'll be fucking anarchy. As far as the world needs to be concerned, the more money we spend to kill a motherfucker, the more dead he is. I guess. It's fucking stupid. So the war in Vietnam
It
ends
is
and the US
stupid. What the
military
fuck?
cannot get rid of these dragonflies fast.
Okay, what is that jet from World Wars from Britain? Constantly forgetting its name, right? What the fuck is that name? With the supercharger on, right? It had a supercharger in it. People made cars about it. I forgot the name, but that was like the famous plane that people always talked about. This plane, this plane. They constantly talk about that plane. But the point is, it's like a sibling, let's just call it, that didn't have supercharger, which is not famous, was the main thing behind all the attack. Was they had more kills to it than this thing. Most planes were that, not the supercharger one, right? But the supercharger one had the most image around it. People think of that as like a champion of World War II during the for the British. But even though it's like barely any planes were there, mostly was the other one. But people just remember that. Why? Because it had a supercharger. It was like powerhouse. it on the spec sheet it was like really powerful. There you go. That's the public image. That's the problem, right? It's like, certain people are doing something. Let's say you give them 4 billion. People will say like, why don't give them 40 billion? They can do faster. That's not how shit works, man. Doesn't matter how much money you pour in, something will work at a point that it works, right? If something is just like easy and cheap and it works better, then it's worked better. What do you mean by it? So yeah, this is like makes sense in a way, right? And if anything, one thing I've noticed, like any type of this with the logistics and shit, cheaper thing and easier things are much better at efficiency, because they're more there, they're always there, which is case with this one. It was cheaper, it was much easier to maintain, people could use that, it was easy to use, so it was constantly there at great numbers.
enough. They are literally giving them out for free like they're fucking candy. They're giving some to Australia. They're giving some to the South
get one,
Vietnamese.
you get one.
They're giving a bunch to the
Look at below your
countries in
seats.
Central America. Some of the ones that went to Central America are still in service today. That shows you how
Yeah.
badass this plane really was. So they give away all these perfectly good planes for free, but then trouble would strike because now guess what? Oh no, America doesn't have a close air support plane anymore. Who could have predicted this? I guess we better just, build a new one. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be better. The minigun in the nose this time is going to be absolutely enormous, and it's all going to come at a price tag of like fucking 20 times as much. But hey, politicians got to feed their kids somehow, right? Ladies and gentlemen, the best thing to ever come out of political corruption, the A-10 Warthog, aka America's gun with wings. We have now officially come full circle. So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the A-37 Dragonfly is the most effective fighter jet that you've probably never heard of, and it's all because it and the men that flew it were way too good at their job for their price tag. Thank you for watching the video. Best way to support the channel is go buy some.
Yeah, I mean, this is insane, right? It has a name, Dragonfly. It should be famous, right? And I'm liking that because of the internet age, because of people like Fat Nutrition, slowly it will be famous, right? But right now, I don't know. Obviously now, because of history, how much history can be famous anyway, right? So at the time, if it was famous, it would have been really famous. But okay, A-37, Dragonfly is really good, but A-10 Warthog is that costly? I think A-10 Warthog is like really like important plane. It is a success, because I remember people literally talking about like, if you're on the field and you hear like A-10 Warthog coming, just like you're saved type of thing. That's how good it was, right? And everybody knows about the stupendous gun in top of it, right? The sound from it and everything is just scary. But A-37, man, I don't know, man, it looks good, right? If it's something works in during the Vietnam time, it's gonna work at any time, right? I guess the only thing the future will change is like predictability, all the electronics and AI. So you might have to make something that just dodges everything, like simple mechanical things won't work. But I think we are not there yet. I think we'll be there in 20 years, but not now. Back 20 years from now, on most of things we have right now, most of the equipment, at least the old one, will have to go away, because it will be something like how US was like in the 80s and 70s. Equipment that you have would be literally different, that nothing else works in front of it, right? So I think that's why the whole all this like the microchip wars are happening right now. That's why China is like looking at Taiwan, TSMC and everything is like demand is much high, because future does look like that. Like you will need chipset at a whole other level, computers, AI at a whole other level, and people see this AI surge of AI and like, this is a good thing. What I fear is only time this kind of a surge happens for anything is because of war and military. That's it. That's the one thing. And the way AI is growing, I'm thinking most people are grooming AI for the war, which I don't know what to think about that. It's just fucking scary. And so the more fast AI improves, the more scary it becomes. Like this is not for consumer use. People, China, US, and everybody will use this for war, and I don't know what to think of that, right? So yeah. All right, well, that was A-37 Dragonfly, a badass. He should have put the badass in the title, a badass plane, because it was like way too good. It was so good, way too good, that people wouldn't have accepted it for that, and so they didn't promote it, right? It's cheaper, it's better, it's OP. How the fuck is gonna like no? But it should have been like famous. All right, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you next time.